Welcome, guys, to this edition of JMC Live. It is the 26th of the wonderful, wonderful month of January, and we have some announcements. We don't normally have announcements on the show, but this week we will have announcements. Tomorrow, and I'm trying to get stuff ready as Miranda's telling me to look at the camera. Can't do this and that at the same time. It's very difficult. I'm trying to get some images and stuff ready for you for tonight's program. But anyway, announcements. I'll take a break from that because that's a breaking point. Tomorrow we are going to Circleville for a wonderful opportunity for Miranda and I to share the message of the gospel, and we will be singing and sharing testimony tomorrow in Circleville at Turnpoint Church. We have the contact information, so you can check that out online, and we can just go from there. What is in store for tomorrow? People have asked me. Well, I'm going to be sharing my testimony. Miranda will be sharing her testimony, how we met, and we'll also be sharing about what Jesus is doing in our lives and the ministry, and we will have at the end an opportunity for people to have questions and answer, and I will be giving a message at the end of it, and so keep that in mind for tomorrow. Now, the one thing that I want you to be completely aware of for this evening is we are talking about relationships. We are talking about not just marital relationships. We are talking about any kind of relationship you can imagine. And what I mean by any kind of relationship that you can imagine, I'm talking about friends, family, loved ones. And I was having this conversation with Miranda before this whole show started, and we talked about the change of media. How at one point we had the radio, and for those of you that are still alive, that remember the radio was the big hit back in the day. You're probably about over 70 years of age if you're still alive. What happened there? It's family gathered and sat around the dinner table or in the living room, and you listen to the news. And then eventually it became, you could listen to the Lone Ranger and other shows like that. A lot of people my age didn't even know the Lone Ranger and started then. Then War of the Worlds, Orson Welles, he did this Fox parody kind of thing. And he ended up getting everybody freaking out that there were aliens taking over the world. And then the next step, we have TV. So we started having TV shows and specialties, variety shows. And there was only a few channels. Now there's, what, 300 to 500 channels on TV, and then cable. Now we have cell phones. Now we have tablets, computers. And what's happened is we've gone from sitting around together to now everybody's on their little phones with their heads down. And I've talked to some chiropractors and I've seen doctors and whatnot, and a lot more patients are coming in at 30 to 40 years of age with a back problem already because they started at 18, 17, bent over like this, looking down all the time. What else has happened to it? Well, at the same point, there are people that have learned to make the correct balance of verbally communicating, nonverbal communication, and technology. What some people have done is they're completely dependent on this item here, and they have stopped almost all emotions. They don't communicate. They don't hug people anymore. They don't shake hands anymore. You know, if someone's having a bad day, a lot of times, if they are not a kind of person that wants to share that on these devices, they're left alone. Because these devices, this technology seems to take them out. On the other hand, some people, such as ourselves, we're using social media and other technologies to be able to spread the message of the gospel, to be able to reach someone and say, hey, do you need prayer requests? Hey, do you need this? But people are looking at written word as that's a concrete, finite thing that can be recorded. Well, so can a verbal conversation. But more people realize that you'll probably save a message versus as remembering exactly what was being verbally said. Well, what does the Bible talk about relationships? 1 Peter 5, 6, and 7 says, "Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, that He may exalt you at the proper time, casting all your anxiety upon Him, because He cares for you." Or how about Psalm 19:14, about letting the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, my rock and my redeemer. Now, we're in this position today where people just cannot, they choose to not, move beyond certain circumstances. I can go to college, I can go to the grocery store, I can go to the library, I can go to the mall, different places, and you'll see teens and stuff and whatnot, and they'll talk. But the dynamic is people are not really talking or even getting in-depth texting anymore. We'll have people that will volunteer at soup kitchens and think it's great, but when you ask them the question, what do you think happens to the man or woman and child when they leave the soup kitchen? Where do they go? And the answer is, I don't know. And then the next question you ask, which I've done before, is, what should we do about it? And I don't know is the answer. Or they're just stuck like that, you know, they're bad decisions and things. It's like we got to the point, because it's this whole survival of the fittest, and it's so strange because you can tell who's a Christian or not in the middle of these depressions, recessions, and stuff happens. You really can. Because you can see fruits of the Spirit coming from someone's mouth, the posts that they write online, and you can see who's hurting today. And I think the problem is not necessarily the technology, it's not the problem with the recession, it's the problem of the heart. It's a problem with the mind. And the fact that we are not spending time in the Word of God. How many churches can you think of today? How many churches can you think of today that do not have anything besides a Sunday morning service? Not open on a Sunday night, not open on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, but they have a big building, and they have to find a way to pay to keep the building open, but they're only open on Sunday morning. They'll have the tithe and stuff, whatnot, and that's it. Some churches will say, well, it's cheaper to have the doors closed the rest of the week, because if we don't get enough people to show up, there's no point in opening the door. So my question is, in reality, for new churches that want to be planted, don't make these big buildings anymore. It doesn't work. You're wasting your money. It might fill for a while, but what happens when you're not getting the people there anymore?
The other thing too, you got to think about the bigger the building, and say the bigger the church, it's harder to build those relationships with people compared to a smaller church.
No,
you know.
No, I don't have a problem with.
Well, no, but it is harder.
Yeah,
I'm saying harder. It's harder to build relationships with people.
I mean, there's no problem having a big church if you have the correct structure of how to be able to get the communication broke through all the different groups.
I've been to big churches, I've been to little churches, and to be honest, I never made any friends at a big church. I made friends and did more fellowship when we were in a church like the one we go to now, when I'm well enough. It's like in between.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this, and this is honestly not something you're just going to wake up or completely grasp by the end of tonight. Hopefully you will. Hopefully the Holy Spirit will come down upon you and your life will be changed and you'll live a different way and you'll receive wisdom from God, from Jesus Christ, and live your life differently. It says in Proverbs 22:6, it says, train up a child in the way he should go, and when he is old he will not depart from it. Here's the problem. We are literally half a generation away from the church being non-existent anymore. The church is on life support in America. Only open on a Sunday morning. I go to Africa and Thailand, Japan, and talk to people. Their church is open 5 to 6 days a week. People are coming and going like hotcakes.
And they don't even have air conditioning or anything like that.
Some of these places, you got to think about this. Some of these places don't have a heater. They have like a pit for fire.
They have no electricity.
They might have an open window with hand fans. Yep. Hand fans.
They don't have a big stage with, computer screens or TV screens showing the,
So why is
all that stuff.
So why is it a second and third world country is hungry for the gospel, but the country of America that has all this capability to reach people with all these different things, we as the church as a whole, we don't know how to use it. I've talked to
and
some
we're
people.
struggling to build relationships.
We're struggling to build relationships. One of the things I've noticed is some of the churches, they don't even know how to use Facebook, Twitter, MySpace, email, social media. And that's because a lot of people have left the church that can explain that to the older generation. I understand the older generation, what the phrase was called the digital divide. I learned that like 12, 13 years ago.
I also feel like the younger generation, some people in our generation don't even understand how to use social media for Christ.
No.
I mean, we've been teaching people over the past 5-6 years how to use social media to reach the lost, to inspire people, and to let your church or ministry grow and lead people to Christ. I mean, we really have been, and there's nothing, it's not their fault they're ignorant. Nobody has been around to teach them.
Here's the key Bible verse that explains part of the issue. Not the whole issue, but part of it. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may be able to prove what is good, acceptable, perfect will of God." I understand. Here's the point with this whole internet stuff. Many ministries and many other people thought, Facebook, MySpace, Twitter, and all that is just going to be a fad. They are true to that, meaning at some point, and I've been on MySpace since the beginning it started. It is nowhere near where it's at now. MySpace is now no longer MySpace. There's a new MySpace. Twitter is now Twitter, but it's a newer Twitter, and so is Facebook. In other words, these websites, these social media things, what happens, and this is what frustrates people that are used to consistency. The problem with the technical world, it is infinite, non-exclusive, non-inclusive, and is a continuous cycle of new technologies and new updates, and you can never get comfortable with what you want to use. Let me give you an example.
But you know what?
Windows 2000. I guarantee many people could not even properly function on a Windows 2000 operating system in 2013. As of today, we have Windows 8. Guess what? They're already working on Windows 9 and Windows 10.
We even struggled figuring out Windows 8.
And Windows 8 reminded me of a cell phone that I've used, but trying to do it on the computer versus sliding your finger, it's a whole different world. But I think people need to wake up and understand that the days that we live in, there's a lot of darkness. There's a lot of things coming at us all over the place. And I'll use an example of my computer RAM. There's all these things flying around at us all day long. It's on the radio, it's on the TV, it's our wife nagging at us to take out the garbage. Somebody's always got something to say to us, right?
Take out the garbage.
That's the point. That's the reason why I said that. And she's saying, and I said she'd take out the garbage. What are we listening to today? What are we looking at? There's a key phrase that I have to use for this that solves this problem. It's called a personal inventory of your life. That's your internal personal check that you have with Jesus Christ. Now here, let me take it another step. The Bible's also clear that we're supposed to be able to confess our sins to one another with an accountability partner. Someone who is a mentor in your life. Someone that is more grounded, more rooted. Someone that can be older than you, has a better understanding of the Bible. And someone that can honestly help transform your life.
Talk about your relationship with your mentor. You talked to him last night.
Well, here's the thing.
Let's talk about it.
Well, here's the thing. I have many mentors for many different things.
But the main one is our friend.
Well, Miranda knows one of the couples that I'm going to talk about. So, personal mentoring. This is a piece about the relationship thing that's going on.
Yeah.
For those of you that are going to be fans in this coming year, the movie Lone Ranger will be coming out. And if you don't really know the real story, it goes back to what I said at the beginning of the show. Lone Ranger used to be a radio program. that you would listen to way back before most of us were born. There were some old black and white shows. Guy rode the horse. And had the... People got him confused with Zorro, because Zorro, you know, was kind of an equivalent to the Lone Ranger. But the Lone Ranger, I say, is out first. Some people say Zorro was out first. I've heard the argument. But anyway, the point of mentorship and the point of...
And now we go to movies.
And I go to movies. And you're like, this is why I want you to relate to this key word. I want you to relate to this key word quite simply. Do not become a Lone Ranger in Christianity. Okay?
That's dangerous.
I'm not saying you have to have a Tonto. I'm not saying you need to be Batman and have a Robin.
Yeah, you do.
No, because the difference is, while you watch these shows, some people think Tonto and Robin are being belittled, or being made fun of because they're a sidekick. The difference is, a mentor is someone who's side by side with you. Walks hand in hand with you. Through the things that are in your life. Through the things that are in your life. Now, to be able to do that, it takes a lot of work finding the right person, or persons to do that. In my case, I have multiple kinds of people that I speak with. There is a couple that is a mentor to me that are in their 50s and 60s respectively. They've been involved in pastoral leadership, lay leadership, ministry leadership, prison ministry, nonprofit stuff, social work stuff. Others have been involved in journalism. Some have been involved in the IT world. In other words, whatever characteristics, whatever kinds of things that are in your life, and I'm not really sure what these things are in your life. I want you to be able to find the people in your life that can change and transform what you are about. Because the moment that you're, the moment that you're able to do this, so much more can be done to assist your walk in Christ. Now, I hope I haven't lost you guys, because this kind of makes a lot of sense.
Let's go in depth.
You got to have a checklist, in other words.
Share about how your mentors have helped you in your walk with Christ.
Well, I can go all the way back to when I was homeless and I started my ministry back then with some things that I had in my life. What happened at that point? With that kind of story, with that kind of mindset, what happened with me and how things were actually changed is that I've had it as simple as just, dealing with the loss of my mother, preparing for the court trial with my stepfather, preparing to go to South Africa, picking a college degree, joining the military, getting out of the military, getting married, picking classes in college. The one now is deciding on a master's degree. Issues I might have with my wife because of her being ill. You're going to have to move your arm off, it's shaking too much. These are the kinds of questions, these are the kinds of things that I've had to deal with. But then it gets even more in depth, because here's one of the kickers. I think many times we become this this person that seems to want to just sit off on the side and not be focused, not be serious, and we think we have all the answers all the time. And I get, you're supposed to be able to pray to God and He's supposed to help you, but at the same point, there are many times in your life, many times in many people's lives, where you're going to need somebody to pray with you. It doesn't make sense to me that if I'm going to get involved with ministry and do it from this perspective as a leader, that I'm asking people to come down the aisle and pray with me as I pray and assist and counsel someone for the struggles that are in their lives. Or maybe it's not a struggle. Maybe it's just, I have a question. I think the whole congregation, everybody should be able to ask these kinds of questions and be able to do these kinds of things. As I said, the world is just getting so dark is that we're having this issue. It says in 1 John 1:9, we must confess our sins. He is faithful and just to forgive us of our sins and cleanse us from all unrighteousness. I mean, how more difficult can it be to try and of course I realize you cannot measure up on your own to do the things that Christ wants to do. It's very difficult. I get that. I understand that. That's why Jesus died for us, because He wants to set us free from the bondages that are in our lives. And as I look across the world, I look right here in Ohio and I look elsewhere and I'm seeing people hurting. I had someone that said, we had someone going to church and they were faithfully going to church for a long time and they had needs and they were dropping them off and they were doing different things and taking them home. This is my own personal story. Somebody said, I got finally convicted about dropping you home, Jeremy, that I think we need to try and help you. I think God wants us to take our blinders off of what we normally do in our normal lives, because the call of Christ and what He wants us to do and how He wants to transform our lives is going to make us do things that we don't normally do. Our life is a continuous change from glory to glory, from the highs and the lows. You might commit a sin today, you ask God to forgive you, you move on, and then some kind of new sin, temptation. There'll be temptations to temptations, and there'll be success stories after success stories. That is what your life is about.
And you can't, people think, well, if I just give money, if I just give this or that, that will be all that someone needs. Building a relationship with somebody can be the most important thing. Communicating, just being there for somebody, just to, listen. I mean, how people are so quick to share their opinions that they forget to take the time to listen to what's really going on. Instead of listening, and I've been guilty of that. Jeremy was let me finish. We are so busy not listening while the person's talking. While the person's talking, we're too busy thinking about what we're going to say.
And see, in my case,
as a reaction to what they're saying.
Miranda will start talking on the show, and what she says, I'm sometimes, like right now, this whole program, I don't know what she's going to say. I already have a scheduled list of things that I'm going to talk about in between what she says. So while she starts talking, I have to automatically think about what's the next thing that I'm talking about, and then going back at the same time and listen to her. But many times, I have to shut off the show program, completely listen to her, so then I can stay on track. Now, many people can't multitask like that. You have to just focus in on the one person. So here's what the Bible says. It's very clear. Proverbs 15:22. It says, without counsel, purposes are disappointed, but in the multitude of counselors they are established. In other words, don't do this by yourself.
That's right.
If you're looking for something, if you need motivation, in some cases, like when I don't get motivated and I don't want to do something, I call someone, and 9 times out of 10, they'll say, okay, it's time for you to go. I'll come pick you up. You need to go look for this job. You need to go to class. You need to help this. It's like, I'll come over. Someone will actually come to my house, which is something we need to be doing again, visiting people.
There are so many people who don't.
Or invite someone to come over, which is what we do. It's just so foreign what we do anymore. I invite people to my house.
They think it's weird.
I talk to them online. I talk to them on the phone. They say, hey, I got this issue. I write them immediately. They're like, oh my goodness, you wrote me. You're asking me to come over. What's the phone number? And in some cases, I got a possible speaking engagement. I got to call someone tomorrow, as it's been quite busy today. I haven't gotten a hold of that one person. But we all have different things in our lives where we have to slow down. We have to change. We have to do this.
I was watching this commercial, I think it was, on TV at Grandma's, because we don't have regular TV. But I was watching this, and this person, like every child, was in some kind of sports. Mm-hmm. They never spent any time together. The husband and wife never spent. They were always doing stuff. What good does it do a person to stay that busy? and not spend time as a family unit when you're here, there, and everywhere, and you're exhausted all the time. Mom's working, dad's working, you come home, take the kids to the sports, take the kids to their classes, their whatever sport or activity they're in. Where's dinner? Well, we pick up dinner on the way to the activity, or when we get home and we don't have time to cook, and then the little Johnny has to go do his homework now, so little Johnny will go to his room and do his homework. Mom and dad's over here doing dad's over watching TV, mom's cleaning the house, and where is the family time where we need to?
So here's what we have to do.
Because building relationships starts in the home.
Yep.
And spending time with one another and communicating and teaching and teaching your children how to have relationships with each other. Because when the family unit is so sporadic like this, how are you supposed to? I mean, that's all that these kids are ever being taught is, well, to have a life, to have a family and be alive. Have a life, you have to stay busy 24/7.
So here's what you have to do. And for some of you that, you're both working jobs and you come home and you're tired and you really don't have the money to always order out. I get that. Someone's got to cook. Someone's got to help with homework because the kid's been there for 3 hours, from 3 to 6 or whatever. Can't get his homework done, waits for you, then you got to do homework. You need to schedule family time. Now, I know it cannot necessarily, if it's a two-family home, a two-parent home, because I know we got one-parent homes, or two-parent homes, schedule it as according. If you have to do daddy day and mommy day and then family day together, then do it that way. Make time for people. Like, for instance, when I was helping Miranda, and I don't know if she wrote it in her blog, I can't remember, and she can comment on this. We spent from 10 o'clock in the morning till 2:57 p.m., so 10 a.m., to 2:57 p.m. calling different companies about her Humira shots for her Crohn's it's an autoimmune disease, okay? Very tiresome, talking to doctors, talking to nurses, pharmacists, social workers, caseworkers. I don't even know what the other names of all the other kinds of people we call. Over 8 phone calls, non-profit organizations, foundations, whatnot, you name it, we talked to it. By this point in the day, we were frustrated because most of the answers were no, and we were getting sad, we cried, we got angry, and that happens. But the biggest thing that happened to me, I had to deal with majority of the phone calls. This is the longest amount of phone calls we have had to make in this whole struggle. I said, as soon as I hung up the phone, we got a pre-approved from a foundation, and we're waiting on paperwork. I said, Miranda, because I was losing my voice, I gotta get a throat lozenge. I went and got me a throat lozenge. I popped it in, and I'm gonna take a sip of water to simulate. I can't talk anymore. I need a break. So here's what I did. I turned the computer off. I talked on my cell phone for a little bit, and then I just sat in the chair. I just literally just sat in the chair for almost 3 hours.
We were just so exhausted.
It was tiresome. And I realized at that point, and it's been a while since I've had to do that, I needed to slow down. Now, if I can admit from where I'm at, involved with ministry and doing all the things that I'm doing, that I had to sit down and not talk and not do anything for over 3 hours in a day, then why don't we all do this? That's the issue. I think we would be a lot less stressed out if we would just slow down sometimes.
Let's talk about how our relationship, Jeremy.
Well,
and that's a funny conversation at some point.
No, we're gonna do a little bit of that. It's already been a half-hour show, and I originally planned to only go about 30 minutes because we're getting prepared.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about
to go tomorrow.
How we have built our relationship and how we communicate with each other, because there are a lot of people who write us who they are very inspired by our marriage and our relationship, and that was the whole point of doing the show tonight, because we've been having a lot of people say, you're an inspiration for marriage, a Christian marriage. And I'm like, Oh boy, if they only knew. I mean, no, we're not perfect, but we do love each other, and you know, we have been through so much, and I think the main thing that has kept us together is truly God and communication. There is no relationship or marriage unless you communicate with the person. And that the lines of communication have always flowed. In the Calvary house, we can share anything with each other.
That's the first time you've ever said that. That's
what?
I never thought about saying that word. We never said Calvary house before. Like it's on something that we own, but you've never said it. Like say it again.
Calvary house.
Sounds kind of strange to me. Okay. But anyway, I never thought we'd say that because I never thought I'd get married. That's why I wanted to say it.
It's strange when people call me Mrs. Calverley. I still am not used to that. But, because when we started our relationship, Jeremy, that's all we had was communication. We couldn't physically be with each other.
So where did we start talking at?
At the beginning.
Where was that?
November 26, 2006.
On what?
On MySpace. And we just started talking. He just wrote, "Hi, how are you? I'm Jeremy," and you know, and I didn't know who he was, and we just started talking, and then we just built our relationship from there. And you know, he was 3,000 miles away. You know, that's all we had. We had the phone, we had MySpace, and we could see each other on a webcam. You know, we would do Skype and stuff, but we physically we could not be together.
So I completely, the point of this, and the reason why we're sharing it, is I completely understand about having no verbal communication at first, because it was all texting.
Yeah.
But then it became a phone conversation. And then a video conference phone texting conversation, because while I was talking, I was texting, and I realized that not everybody does that, and not everybody, you know, is really great. It seems there's a lot more introverts being born or being created because
of this technology.
Of not just the technology, but because of the economy and because of things that are happening.
Well, you and I both are not introverts, so we would just, because that's all we had. I mean, by the time we finally met each other, we had talked everything out. We knew everything about each other. We felt like we had known each other for years, and so we just started creating our memories. Once we met each other and then got married, we were already extremely comfortable with each other, even though we had only known each other 9 months and only had been physically together 2 months. I mean, around 2. It was maybe a month and a half. I'll say a month and a half all together. All the time we spent together was about a month and a half between my 2 flights to California and your flight out here to Ohio, and then.
Now here's the reason why that worked so quickly for us, because I had already established a checklist of what I was looking for in a wife.
And I had my checklist that I prayed to God about for 7 years.
We had this Before I Say I Do devotional book that we did.
Yeah.
And we went through the whole book before we got married, and then when we got married, we started doing regular Bible studies. And now that Miranda's sick, we're not doing, I wouldn't call them Bible studies, I would call them life studies, because we're taking things that are happening in our lives and trying to find Bible verses that fit around what's happening in our lives. Her being sick all the time, you know.
And the other thing we do, we'll just sit in bed at night before we go to bed, and we'll just talk to God like, you know, he's right there in the room. He's just a buddy, you know, and that's how we talk to God. We'll say, "God, you know what's been happening today, and man, it's been a hard day, and you know, Miranda's been sick, and I just don't know what we're gonna do, and you know, there's no one else to help us, and you know, we're supposed to go to this church, and you know, the only way Miranda's gonna get to go is if you make her well." I mean, that was literally the prayer. I mean, we just talked to God, just like, you know, it says He will stick closer than a brother, and and that's the way we talk to Him, just as if He was my dad sitting in the room.
and then the other thing we do, we'll stop talking and we'll just be quiet and listen. I think too many times Many people think prayer is just one-sided thing where you keep talking till you feel good and you cried it all out and that's it. No, prayer is you got to pray and then you got to be quiet. Yeah. And sometimes you got to be quiet for a long time. Like I've told people, I said, I've already prayed to God that God will take care of Miranda's Crohn's, and I'm not praying that prayer again. And some people told me that I was wrong and foolish for this. And I said, wait a second. The reason why I've only prayed that once is because I have enough faith that God already heard that one prayer. What I am doing is praying of, you know, what do I need to say to the doctors, what kind of other things that are around her situation, like what signs do I need to pay attention to, Lord, you know, if her face turns blue, if she's red, if she's tired, how do I talk to her, how do I deal with her, what do I need to do, what is the next steps that I need to do. These are the kinds of things that I have to do to make this make total sense. Because if I don't do it this way, then I'm missing out on what Christ wants me to do to help my wife. Now, because if I just say this one prayer and I'm stuck on it like a broken record, God's not going to change my life. I'm not going to be able to help her,
and you can't move on.
And you can't move on. It's kind of like forgiveness. You have to forgive yourself. Well, when you pray for something, to have faith, you have to believe that God heard what you said. Well, if you honestly believe that God heard what you said, then why are you praying for it again? The Bible talks about vain babblings of communication and that's prayer why and into other people.
I've gotten to a point where I just can't pray those prayers anymore, and
because she's already prayed
because I've already prayed them. So I ask other people to pray for me.
Yeah,
because I just can't do this anymore. I'm prayed out.
It's honestly a waste of time to say, God, heal my Crohn's, if you've already said that prayer and you honestly believe that God heard your prayer and God will actually follow through with what you said. Now, it's one thing if you're sick and you're in the bathroom and all that stuff. Start praying for all these attributes. You know, I'm on the toilet. Lord, help me get off the toilet today.
And I do that.
And every day it's a different day, and that's okay. God, help me get through the Crohn's today. That's okay. But saying get healed multiple times isn't going to do anything. Because the vain babbling.
The thing that I've been praying a lot is the pain. To God, if you can't take the pain completely away, make it bearable.
Yeah.
Because I've already prayed numerous times for the pain to be taken away, but if he's not going to, I mean, I have faith he will, but if he chooses not to, then make it bearable. And now there's days that, you know, we fight like cats and dogs in this house. And a lot of times people think that we're fighting when we're not fighting. That's the biggest misconception, is that there will be days you would think, oh my gosh, they're going to like attack each other. And actually we're just, that's how we talk. We just are joking around, and we sometimes sound like we're being mean to each other, but we're not. We're kind of being cynical. And
which is wrong and we need to stop doing.
But it's at times we're so much alike that we're butting heads, and that's the problem. I mean, in some ways it's good that we're a lot alike, but then it gets to the point where it's annoying. And you know, there's days I look at him and I say, I don't want to be around you right now. I just can't stand to even be around you right now.
And you know what? You know what we do? We go in a separate room. You know?
Yeah.
And that's what you do, because you got to have, when you get married and when you have friends, you still have to have your individual space. Yeah. And, you know, even though you're married, you're both going to like things that the other person isn't going to like.
When it comes, hey, let's talk about respecting in a relationship, respecting another person's likes that you might not like. And that comes down to, luckily there's a lot of things we do like. Now, the thing that I don't like is these weirdo sci-fi movies that Jeremy will put in, and there's like just so retarded.
It's a flying saucer, Miranda.
It's so dumb. It's like B movies, even C movies, and they're like cheesy. But you know what? We have another TV in the house, but I will sit in the living room and watch the movies with him because he loves to talk to me during the movie. Oh, did you see that? And I was like, yeah. what do you think? That's just weird. Like Godzilla. He owns every Godzilla movie, and it's like so weird. I was like, this is just bizarre stuff. But I'll sit there, and he's like, but it's funny. I was like, yeah, it's funny, all right. And I'll sit there out of respect. I respect what he likes. And I want to spend time with him, so I will watch. So we'll put in a movie that he likes to do, or a video game he likes to play, and he'll play for an hour or 2 hours, and then we'll put in something I like that he doesn't like. For example, a Judy Garland movie or a musical. That look at that face. Look at that face.
No more musicals. See, that's the point. So, normally, and here's what I got.
When an average person would go to that other room where there's another TV, we'll sit there with each other because we enjoy each other's company.
Because the point is, here's the thing: you don't have to like what the other person's doing. Why don't you do what I do? I focus on watching her and tearing this stuff out because she's all like, "Yay, she's singing! Yay, she's carrying an umbrella!" And she's all happy. So then I'm happy that she's happy.
I'm carrying an umbrella.
Well, the woman on the film is carrying an umbrella, wearing a dress, and falling in rain puddles or whatever she's doing. I don't know. I'm not paying attention. See? But I am. But if she wants me to pay attention, then yeah, I'll sit here and pay attention. Because sometimes she'll do it to me and say, "What do you think about this puddle in Oklahoma and the Seven Brothers and whatever else she's watching?" And I say, "Okay."
Maybe in St. Louis.
And I'll find something funny or something I can relate to the male guy or whatever.
Now you do like the Seven Brides for Seven Brothers musical. That's the only musical that you have actually admitted that you like.
Yeah.
And it's because it's all about men, and they're fighting all the time and quarreling and fighting amongst each other, and it's more manly. But that's like, And then there's some of your weird sci-fi stuff I do like. I'll say, okay, that was good. Okay,
but that's the point. And now I realize this tunes out a lot of people to watch the show because they're not married. But for those of you that aren't, this still works with your friendships. If you're wanting to build relationships,
because your friends are going to like things that you might not.
Because here's the thing. Christians are supposed to create more Christians. And I'm not saying making babies. Don't get me wrong here, okay? I'm saying we are supposed to be able to share our testimony, our personal message of what Christ has done in our lives, what Christ has done in your life. And you're supposed to be able to share that with someone else. Be able to share it with someone else. And just express to your friends and your family, Christ did this for me. What's going on in your life? How can I pray for you? Then you got to take it to the next step and lead them to the gospel. And that's the thing that we're missing out on, is the church is only open a little bit. People may own a Bible, but they don't understand the stories. They don't understand how to share the message of the gospel. They don't understand how to reach someone else. We need to be able to do that.
And when you talk about them not understanding the Bible, then that hinders their relationship with God.
Yes.
And in turn, hinders their relationship with others.
Yes. So if you don't, to properly have a maximized, as Edmund Cole would say, a maximized manhood or a maximized relationship with any person, you're supposed to be able to effectively, as Stephen Covey would say, effectively learn about the Bible, apply it to your life, and then you can share that with someone else. Because even the most difficult introvert still has a verbal conversation with somebody else. Or they have a written conversation with someone else. If we could make Facebook and MySpace a combination, and I shared this the other day, that Facebook and MySpace, and I tried it out. I asked people about food in the middle of the night. I got 5 or 6 comments on that. I post a Bible verse, I might get a couple of likes.
Yeah.
Why is food at 1:30 in the morning more important
than a
Bible verse? And this just happened the last 24 hours. Yeah. You can go look at my Facebook wall.
And we did that as an experiment so we could talk about it on the show.
Mm-hmm. And it proves my point.
And we have lost focus on what is important.
Yes.
Food is, I mean, talking about
yes, food will keep you alive, but food is not going to transform your, I mean, it can transform your life and it can get you some real sickness or make you happy and feel good for a while. I get that. We have to live on food.
But you need the spiritual food.
Where's your spiritual food? Where is the food that's going to give you everlasting life? That's going to be able to help you when you have a problem. When you have a problem, food is not supposed to be your God. That's the problem. Many people have turned food into their God, and they're making it where they're not eating at all, or they're eating too much, and they're eating at the wrong time, and they're eating the wrong kinds of foods.
And that goes
and
with
we're all
anything.
guilty.
It isn't just food. It's
because I'm a fat guy too. I get it. You know, I'm gained a lot of weight from my car accidents. I gained weight because I went back to school and got out of the military. It happens. But relationships. And that's part of our core values here at JMC Ministries, is we want to build relationships with people.
And we have said, if our marriage and our relationship with each other and with God isn't in a good place, then how the heck are we going to do ministry? Mm-hmm. And people see that. People can see, hearing how we talk to each other on this show, how we interact with each other, they can tell whether or not we like each other.
I don't like you.
I don't like you either, so shut up. I mean, you know, we're not fake. We're not trying to be fake. We're talking about our marriage. You know, there are a lot of, you know, we don't have a normal marriage. We don't get to do the things an average young couple, young adults get to do. We don't get to do that stuff because of my disease.
But at the same point, it's opened up the doors for us to be able to, you know, research and spend more time in the Word and see what other people are doing, because we're not busy like everyone else, and we're seeing the needs of the people. And we
sit and observe. We're observers. That's a Fringe TV show thing. We're the observers.
Okay.
Anybody watch Fringe, you know what we're talking about. But that's really what we've become. We've become observers. And we watch and see what's going on in the world, and then we see, well, what can we do? What can we do? I mean, we are limited, but how we can still make some kind of an impact.
Exactly.
You know, and that's what, together, because we cannot do. I mean, what Jeremy can't do, I can do. And what I can't do, Jeremy can do. You know, and without the other, this ministry is not possible. It just is not. When Jeremy has gone and spoken, you know,
I don't know. I have to interject. For some reason, are you like me, and this is a weird random blurb thought? I haven't said the word blurb in a long time. Blurbs existed before blogs. Okay, don't. But anyway, here's a blurb. Have you ever heard a word and it doesn't sound like the right word, or you look on a word on a piece of paper and you're like, word. That word don't look right. It don't sound like the right word. It
doesn't. You're not using proper English.
So in other words, she said spoken, and I don't know why my brain decided to not think spoken is a word, but I know it is.
But you have even said, when you go and do things on your own ministry-wise, which you've had to do over the past 2 years, you say, it isn't the same. I feel like I am all alone. I'm not comfortable. I feel like there's something missing. Mm-hmm. And it's me, because there is not, you know, we complete each other. And, you know, people focus so much. I mean, the TV, magazines, internet is always pushing, you know, the physical appearance, the way people look. Sex is the most important thing in a relationship. I'm going to tell you right now. When you are dealing with a sick spouse, sex is definitely not the most important thing in your marriage. It's important, but it isn't your main focus. Your main focus is spending time with that person, spending quality time with each other, whether it be just holding each other, like a back massage. If that's all you can do, then that's your intimacy. There are millions of people, millions of couples out there who are doing the same things we do, and that's the level of their intimacy, and that's the level to the depth of their relationship. That's how deep they can only go. It isn't like an average person, and I will tell you, don't take for granted that the other person's always going to be there and they're always going to be healthy in that relationship, because there might be one day you'll have to carry that person like Jeremy carries me. He carries me every day. I mean, he was literally Thursday, he was on that phone from 10 to 3 p.m. trying to save my life. Because without this medication, I'm just going to continue to get worse. They're saying it's helping. I'm not in remission, but they're saying it's keeping it from getting worse. It's still bad, but I'm not as bad as I used to be, and that's true. The pain is nothing where I would just scream for days and weeks and I wouldn't get any sleep. But there are different, there's different stages in relationships you're going to go through. It's like me and Jeremy skipped being newlyweds and we've been married for 50 years, and, we're like the movie Up. You see the couple, they meet when they're little, they build a relationship, they get married, and then you see them grow old together. No, we didn't have that. We met, we got married, and then we went to, we're old and we're sitting. There was no, we grew old together. There was none of that. It was just, we went old together. Boom. 1 year after we got married. Boom. And he's sitting in his chair and I'm sitting in my chair. And we enjoy each other's company now.
Yep, and we're going to have to wrap it up here. We got less than 10 minutes to go, so I'm just going to go ahead and finish this off here. You've heard just a little bit about our story, and I don't want to get too much more into it because we're saving that for tomorrow. So for those of you that are here locally in Ohio, come to Turnpoint Church tomorrow at 10:30 in the morning. You'll hear more about our story, about what God has done. You'll hear about more from my side, because I'll be the one doing most of the speaking. And it'll be an amazing time. For those of you who will not be able to physically go and see the Turnpoint Church message that I'll give, we will be recording it. It will be posted online. Both this show and tomorrow's will probably be edited before the end of tomorrow, I'll believe. It's a good possibility. If not, it'll be done by Monday, I believe. Because we need to get this stuff done and up and ready to go. And
next Sunday is Cross Effects Church.
Yes, next Sunday is Cross Effects Church. That will be
3 p.m.
3 p.m.
next Sunday.
No, it's not next Sunday.
Oh,
it's 2 weeks away.
Oh, it's 2 weeks away. I'm sorry.
Well, next Sunday, well, it's the 3rd. That'll be the 3rd of January, and then I maybe have
the 3rd of February.
3rd of February, and then on the 10th, the week afterwards, I have an engagement possibly going to in the evening. I'll give you more information as it gets to me. It's going to be a very serious tone, kind of prayer, vigil, remembrance of someone who lost their life to being hit by a drunk driver. But I'll tell you more information on that. So this is pretty much it for tonight.
What are your final thoughts on what we talked
for
about?
JMC Live here on January 26, 2013.
What are your
final thoughts of the day? Final thoughts of the day will be quite simply as such that you need to have a relationship with Jesus Christ to be able to transform your relationships with other people. But to have that relationships with other people be changed and to honestly do what Christ has called you to do, you are going to have to be changed yourself. And it requires a lot of sacrifice on your part to do what Christ wants you to do. Because our emotions and our thoughts and so many things do get in the way and keep us from fulfilling what God's plan is in our lives. But when you allow Christ to get right in the middle of your life, and you allow Him to transform you, you allow Him to move in a way that you've never seen before, so much more can happen to you. God can give you that peace beyond all understanding. He can give you the wisdom that you need. And I warn you, when you start praying for wisdom and guidance and help, you will be put in some kind of test to see if you're going to walk in His guidance or help. And it will happen time and time again. So, as I said, tomorrow, if you're here in Ohio, go on our website or go on our Facebook. We have information on the Turnpoint Church in Circleville, Ohio. That'll be 10:30 in the morning. And then the following week, which will be February 3rd, we will have Cross Effects Church at 3 p.m. Eastern. And that will be live. So there's a lot of things coming up the next 2 Sundays in a row. And actually 3 Sundays in a row, because I have a possible engagement on the 10th. Well, actually, it is confirmed on the 10th for a prayer vigil of a person that lost their life to a drunk driver. It'll be in the evening at 5 o'clock at the Transparent Ministries facility here in town in Chillicothe, Ohio. I'm going to get more information on that. But I thought I'm going to let you guys know all this and then go from there. And we'll see you again next week. God bless.